Pebbles and stones are usually removed from sand in construction sites by... You're right. Sieving is the correct answer.
Separation of mixtures into their constituents is often necessary to dash.
Nice work. You chose all of the above and it is correct.
The process by which the liquid changes into a gas is called evaporation.
Valid point. True is true. If you want to remove grains from their stalks, what method will you use? Strong choice. Threshing is the right answer. The process by which we can separate salt and water from their mixture is... Excellent. Evaporation is a brilliant choice. Impurities that settle down at the bottom of the container are called as... Right choice. Sediments is the best answer.
Distillation is a separation technique in which dash is followed by dash.
Nicely done. Evaporation condensation is a solid answer.
Which of the following is used to separate the mixture water and petrol?
Clear logic. Your choice, separating funnel, is sound and 100% true. The method of separating grains of wheat from its stalk is known as dash. Correct response. Threshing is the most accurate answer.
Which method is to separate the grains from the stalks after harvesting?
You got it. Your choice, threshing, is right.
The property used in separating a mixture of two solids by winnowing is...
You chose difference in weight, and it is correct.
What is the process that is used to separate grains from stalks called? Oh?
Right again. Threshing is a valid answer.
What method will you use to separate lighter husk from wheat or flour?
Great thinking. Sieving is the right choice. The process followed to separate grains from the stalks is called dash. Solid response. Winnowing is a valid choice.
In which of the following 1 tablespoon of sugar will dissolve quickly?
Good job. Your answer, hot water, works well here.
Which of the following methods is used to separate stones from grains?
Well reasoned. Sieving is the correct choice.
A mixture contains 2 or more substances that can be separated easily.
Smart move. True is an accurate answer.
The method used to separate cream from milk is called centrifugation.
Excellent choice. True is the right answer. The grain is separated from the stalk by the process called winnowing. On track. False is the correct answer. The process of making mud particles heavy with alum can be termed as... Bravo. Loading is the answer.
The components of a solution can be separated by...
Well done. Evaporation is the right choice.
The process of sedimentation is used to separate salt from seawater.
Perfect. False is the correct choice.
Find the method used to separate mud and water as well as oil and water.
Well picked. Decantation is the correct answer.
A substance that dissolves in a solvent to form a solution is called...
Exactly. Solute makes sense and it is right choice.
The method used to separate mixture of iron filling and salt will be...
Good thinking. Magnetic separaton is the right answer.
a separation method which involves blowing of light particles by air.
Sharp thinking. Winnowing is the right choice.
A farm machine called the dash is used for both harvesting and threshing.
Correct. Combine is the right answer.
Grapes can be separated from the mixture of nuts and grapes by dash.
Nice selection. Hand-picking is the correct and valid answer.
If a substance contains two or more kinds of molecules, it is called.
Great job. Compound is the accurate answer.
The process used to speed up the process of sedimentation is dash.
Smart pick. Loading is the correct choice.
A mixture of common salt and water can be separated by evaporation.
Great job. True is the accurate answer.
The method of separating heavier substances and lighter substances.
Correct. Winnowing is the right answer.
If you want to separate dust from grains, what method will you use?
Valid point. Winnowing is true.
To separate a mixture of stones and wheat flour, the method used is.
Well done. Sieving is the right choice.
Peanuts are separated from the mixture of wheat and peanut by dash.
Clear logic. Your choice handpicking is sound and 100% true.
The rate of sedimentation is increased by adding dash to the water.
Bravo. Salt is the answer.
Which of the following is essential to perform winnowing activity?
Solid response. Wind is a valid choice.
Dash, in which particles of the substances present cannot be seen.
Nicely done. Homogeneous is a solid answer.
It is the process in which evaporation is followed by condensation.
Smart pick. Distillation is the correct choice.
The method used to separate the seeds from the fruit juice is dash.
You chose filtration, and it is correct.
Temperature has an effect on the speed a solid dissolves in water.
Smart move. True is an accurate answer.
The method of separation used to separate stone from rice is dash.
Well picked. Handpicking is the correct answer.
What involves beating the harvested crops to separate the grains?
Good job. Your answer threshing works well here.
Handpicking can only be done when the impurities are of different.
Exactly. Colors make sense and it is right choice.
The process of cutting and gathering the ripened crop is called.
Great thinking. Harvesting is the right choice.
Butter is taken out from milk by doing what process of separation?
You got it? Your choice churning is right.
Which method of separation is used in of preparing cottage cheese?
Correct response. Filtration is the most accurate answer.
Distillation is a method of obtaining pure dash from a solution.
Nice selection. Liquid is the correct and valid answer.
This method of separating components of a mixture is called dash.
Excellent. Winnowing is a brilliant choice.
What is the method used to separate a mixture of sand and water?
4. Right choice. Handpicking is the best answer.
Grain and husk can be separated with the process of decantation.
Strong choice. False is the right answer.
The method that is used to obtain pure salt from impure salt is.
Good thinking. Crystallization is the right answer. In a mixture, solids of different size can be separated by dash. Perfect. Sieving is the correct choice. At water treatment plants, the river water is filtered by using. You're right. Sand filters is the correct answer. A dash mixture is one that does not have a uniform composition. Excellent choice. Heterogeneous is the right answer. Which process is not an example of separating solid from solid? Sharp thinking. Centrifugation is the right choice. To separate two miscible liquids, this method is used commonly. Well reasoned. Distillation is the correct choice. Sieving is used for separating two substances with dash sizes. Nice work. You chose different and it is correct. With the rise in temperature, the solubility of gases in water. Right again. Decreases is a valid answer. The process of winnowing is used to remove pebbles from pulses. On track. False is the correct answer. Which method is used to separate pebbles and stones from sand? You chose sieving, and it is correct. Husk and stones could be separated from grains by handpicking. Great job. Handpicking is the accurate answer. Separation is necessary when we need to remove unwanted things. You're right. True is the correct answer. The process of converting a liquid form to its vapor form is. Nice selection. Evaporation is the correct and valid answer. A mixture of mustard oil and kerosene oil can be separated by. Smart move. Separating funnel is an accurate answer. What is the method used to separate soluble solid from liquid? Good job. Your answer evaporation and condensation works well here. The solubility of different substances in water is different. Well done. True is the right choice. The process of separation of tea leaves by strainer is called. Right again. Filtration is a valid answer. Sieving is used when components of a mixture have same sizes. On track. False is the correct answer. A sieve is a shallow vessel having small holes at its bottom. Well picked. True is the correct answer. Find the method to separate sand and water from their mixture. Nice work. You chose sedimentation and decantation, and it is correct. Which method is used to separate wheat flour from wheat bran? Strong choice. Sieving is the right answer.
The separation of grains from husk is done by the process of.
Great thinking. Winnowing is the right choice. More substance can be dissolved in its saturated solution by. Perfect. Both and is the correct choice. The method of separating seeds from its stack is called dash. Exactly. Threshing makes sense and it is right choice. Dash process helps in speeding up the rate of sedimentation. Well reasoned.
Loading is the correct choice.
Materials that allow light to pass through it is called dash.
Good thinking. Transparent is the right answer. In a mixture containing sugar and salt, the constituents are. Solid response. Sugar and sand is a valid choice.
Common salt is obtained from the seawater by the method of.
Excellent choice. Evaporation is the right answer.
Machines are also used to thresh large quantities of grain.
Valid point. True is true.
Which process is used in separating tea particles from tea? Smart pick. Filtration is the correct choice. What is a substance that is dissolved in another substance? Clear logic. Your choice solute is sound and 100% true.
Which of the following is a method of separating solutions? Correct. Evaporation is the right answer. Condensation happens when water vapor hits a cold surface.
Correct response. True is the most accurate answer. Separating the wheat grain from the stalk of a wheat plant.
Nicely done. Threshing is a solid answer.
A single substance of a definite composition is called an.
Sharp thinking. Pure substance is the right choice.
A mixture of milk and water can be separated by decantation.
Bravo. False is the answer.
A substance which is used in making objects is called dash.
Right choice. Material is the best answer. True or false? Filtration can be used to separate solutions. You got it. Your choice false is right.
Separation of components of a mixture is a useful process.
Excellent. True is a brilliant choice.
The particles that settle down in sedimentation are called.
Valid point.
Sediment is true. Hand-picking is used to separate dirt and husk from grains.
Strong choice. True is the right answer.
The husk is separated from heavier seeds of grain by dash.
Sharp thinking. Winnowing is the right choice.
By which method we remove impurities and bran from flour.
Right choice. By sieving is the best answer.
A solution that cannot dissolve any more solute is called.
Nice selection. Saturated is the correct and valid answer.
Which process is used for separating tea from tea leaves?
Correct. Sieving is the right answer.
Which method do we use to separate wheat grain from stalk?
You chose threshing, and it is correct.
A solution in which no more solute can be added is called.
Correct response. Saturated solution is the most accurate answer.
A dash is one such filter that has very fine pores in it.
Well done. Filter paper is the right choice.
What plays an important role in the process of winnowing?
Excellent. Direction of wind is a brilliant choice.
What are the three processes to separate soil from water?
Solid response. Sedimentation, decantation, filtration is a valid choice.
Separation of sugar from tea can be done with filtration.
On track.
False is the correct answer.
What is the process of converting water into water vapor?
Great thinking. Evaporation is the right choice.
What name is given to the solid left on the filter paper?
Excellent choice. The residue is the right answer.
Separating tea leaves from prepared tea by the method of?
You're right. Filtration is the correct answer.
Separating pieces of stone and husk from rice and pulses.
Good thinking. Hand-picking is the right answer.
Iron powder mixed with flour is in the magnetic process.
Good job. Your answer true works well here.
Anything that has mass and occupies space is called dash.
Perfect. Matter is the correct choice.
A pure substance has a fixed melting and boiling points.
Smart move. True is an accurate answer.
By which method can we separate chalk powder from water?
Well picked. Sedimentation and decantation is the correct answer.
Butter can be separated from curd using the process of.
Right again. Churning is a valid answer.
The constituents of all mixtures can be seen separately.
Smart pick. False is the correct choice.
Which of these is an example of heterogeneous mixtures?
Clear logic. Your choice pizza is sound and 100% true.
Distillation is used to separate which type of mixture?
Well reasoned. Two miscible liquids is the correct choice.
A mixture of ammonium chloride and sand is separated by.
Great job. Sublimation is the accurate answer.
On an average, a seawater has dash of edible salt in it.
You got it. Your choice 36G is right.
Separation of common salt from the seawater is by dash.
Nicely done. Evaporation is the solid answer.
By which process oil and vinegar is commonly separated?
Bravo! Decantation is the answer.
I am used to separate solid constituents differ to size.
Nice work. You chose sieving and it is correct.
By which process is salt water turned into fresh water?
Exactly. Distillation makes sense and it is right choice.
Husk and grains are separated from the process of dash.
Right choice. Winnowing is the best answer.
Which of the following is not a bad conductor of heat?
Bravo, iron ruler is the answer.
Name the method by which we get salt from ocean water.
You chose evaporation, and it is correct.
In a mixture, constituents can be present in any ratio.
Exactly. True makes sense and it is right choice.
Pure substances are made up of the same kind of atoms.
Smart pick. True is the correct choice.
A mixture in which the particles are visible is called.
Sharp thinking. Heterogeneous is the right choice.
Which method is used to separate tea leaves from tea?
Smart move. Sieving is an accurate answer.
The process of changing solid to gas directly is dash.
Strong choice. Sublimation is the right answer.
Wind manages to separate substances during threshing.
On track. False is the correct answer.
What is formed when we dissolve a substance in water?
Right again. Solution is a valid answer. The saturation level of a mixture decreases over a dash.
You're right. Heating is the correct answer.
By which method can we separate iron nails from sand? Perfect. Magnetic separation is the correct choice. Mixture has properties different from its components. Great thinking. False is the right choice. Larger quantity of sugar can be dissolved in water by. Well reasoned. Heating is the correct choice. The process of settling heavier components is called. Nice work. You chose sedimentation and it is correct. The liquid above the sediment is called a supernatant. Good thinking. True is the right answer. We obtain salt from the sea by using a method called. You got it? Your choice evaporation is right. Iron particles can be separated from the mixture by.
Correct response. Magnet is the most accurate answer.
Which of the following is not a homogeneous mixture?
Well picked. Fried rice is the correct answer.
Which of the following is not attracted by a magnet?
Solid response. Chalk is a valid choice.
Tea leaves are separated from tea by the process of. Excellent choice. Filtration is the right answer. We separate two liquids using separating funnel. Nice selection. Immiscible is the correct and valid answer. Salt is obtained from seawater by the process of. Great job. A. Evaporation is the accurate answer. A machine that reaps, threshes, and cleans the crop.
Excellent. Combine harvester is a brilliant choice.
Which process do we use to get salt from seawater? Good job. Your answer evaporation works well here. How to separate salt from seawater by method. Nicely done. Evaporation is a solid answer. The dash is used during the process of distillation. Clear logic. Your choice, Liebig condenser, is sound and 100% true. Substances in which solute dissolves is called dash. Well done. Solvent is the right choice. By which process grains are separated from stalks? Valid point. Threshing is true. Among these two processes, which is slower process? Correct. Sedimentation is the right answer. The unwanted particles in a mixture are known as. Right again. Residue is a valid answer. Name the process by which gas changes into liquid. Solid response. Condensation is a valid choice. The solubility dash with increase in temperature. Bravo. Increases is the answer. A substance that's sublime even at room temperature. Excellent. Naphthalene is a brilliant choice. Oil mixed in water is the process of decantation.
Good thinking. True is the right answer.
The opposite process evaporation is condensation. Well picked. True is the correct answer. Butter is separated from buttermilk by churning.
Smart pick. True is the correct choice.
Which of the following items is soluble in water?
On track. Sugar is the correct answer.
Which process is used to separate salt from water? Great thinking. Evaporation is the right choice. The components of a solution can be separated by.
Nicely done. Evaporation is a solid answer.
A dash is made up of only one kind of particles.
Good job. Your answer, pure substance, works well here.
Separation of kerosene oil from water is done by. Nice selection. Decantation is the correct and valid answer. Constituents of a mixture can be in any ratio, TF.
Smart move. True is an accurate answer.
The process of picking substances with hand, dash. Strong choice. Hand picking is the right answer. How can we separate the seawater and the salt? Valid point. With help of sunlight is true. Which process uses a paper to catch the solids? Sharp thinking. Filtration is the right choice. Butter is separated from curd by the process of. Right choice. Churning is the best answer. Does sedimentation make water completely clear? Great job. No is the accurate answer. Process used for purification of salt from sea.
Correct response. Crystallization is the most accurate answer.
The process used to separate grains from stalks.
Correct. Threshing is the right answer.
A mixture of sand and water can be separated by. Nice work. You chose filtration, and it is correct. How are grain seeds removed from their stalks? Excellent choice. Threshing is the right answer. Which of the method is not used by the farmers? You chose sieving, and it is correct. By sieving, dash and dash are removed from sand. Well done. Pebbles, stones is the right choice. Sieving system method to separate particles of. You got it? Your choice different sizes is right. Best method to remove husk from seed or grains. Well reasoned. Threshing is the correct choice. Deficiency of vitamin H leads to which disease? Perfect. Hemorrhage is the correct choice. All elements and compounds are dash substances. You're right. Pure is the correct answer. Which technique is used to purify dirty water?
Clear logic. Your choice sedimentation is sound and 100% true.
Liquids which don't dissolve in each other are. Exactly. Immiscible makes sense, and it is right choice. Decantation is used to separate oil and water. Right again. True is a valid answer. Common salt can be separated from seawater by. Well reasoned. Evaporation is the correct choice. Which of the combinations is the odd one out? Clear logic. Your choice, oil and water, is sound and 100% true. Butter is separated from milk by dash method. Correct response. Churning is the most accurate answer. The process of separating solid and liquid is. Great job. Filtration is the accurate answer. The property which forms the basis of sieving. Well done. Difference in size is the right choice. ink loses its properties when mixed in water? Bravo! False is the answer. Which of the following can dissolve in water? Good thinking. Solids, liquids, and gases is the right answer. The materials to make paneer can be found in. Valid point. Filtration is true. The sieving is done based on the property of. Excellent choice. Difference in size is the right answer.
Constituents of mixture are evenly spread in.
Great thinking. Homogeneous mixture is the right choice.
It is obtained by mixing two or more solids.
On track. Solid-solid mixture is the correct answer. How are homogeneous mixtures characterized? Right choice. Having uniform composition is the best answer. Which of these will not dissolve in water? Perfect. Vinegar is the correct choice. Which substance is in sublime among these? Nice selection. Iodine is the correct and valid answer. Handpicking is a method of separating dash. You got it? Your choice components by hands is right. Sharbat is a mixture of sugar and water. Nice work. You chose true, and it is correct. We can add more sugar in a dash solution. Solid response. Unsaturated is a valid choice. Pick the correct example of pure substance. Sharp thinking. Salt is the right choice. What means to cut the crop from the field?
Good job. Your answer harvesting works well here.
No substance in nature is 100% dash. Excellent. Pure is a brilliant choice. It is an example of heterogeneous mixture. You're right. Sand is the correct answer. What kind of mixtures are aerated drinks? Exactly. Gas liquid makes sense, and it is right choice. The air around us is a mixture of gases. You chose true, and it is correct. Mohan able to bend the rod because it is. Well picked. Flexible is the correct answer. Butter is taken out by dash milk or curds. Smart move. Churning is an accurate answer. How is butter taken out from milk or curd? Strong choice. Churning is the right answer. The commonly used chemical for loading is.
Correct. Alum is the right answer.
Winnowing is only possible when there is.
Nicely done. Wind is a solid answer.
Decantation can also be used to separate. Smart pick. Oil and water is the correct choice. In process filtration, we use which paper?
On track. Filter paper is the correct answer.
A mixture can be solid, liquid, or gases.
Excellent choice. True is the right answer. Find the opposite process of evaporation. Sharp thinking. Condensation is the right choice. Water that is fit for drinking is called. Excellent. Potable water is a brilliant choice. By which method can we seeds from juice? Well done. Filtration is the right choice. How to separate sugar from wheat flour?
You got it? Your choice sieving is right.
Salt is obtained from seawater by dash. strong choice. Evaporation is the right answer. Lemonade is a special mixture called a... You chose solution, and it is correct.
How can we obtain salt from seawater?
Great job. Evaporation is the accurate answer. Oil and water can be separated through. Bravo. Separating funnel is the answer. Salt and sugar can be separated out by. Smart pick. Sieving is the correct choice. The liquid obtained after distillation. Solid response. Distillate is a valid choice. Dash filter has very fine pores in it. Correct response. Paper filter is the most accurate answer. How do we separate grains from stalks? Good job. Your answer, threshing, works well here. Filtration method is used to separate. Clear logic. Your choice, sand and water, is sound and 100% true. The separation method used by farmers. Well reasoned. Threshing is the correct choice. In modern times, threshing is done by. Great thinking. Machines is the right choice. Distillation is a process to separate. Good thinking. Miscible liquids is the right answer.
How do you separate sugar from water?
You're right. Evaporation is the correct answer.
Mixture may be solid, liquid, or dash.
Nice work. You chose gas and it is correct. Which paper do we use for filtration? Exactly. Filter paper makes sense and it is right choice. How do you separate water from milk? Correct. Evaporation is the right answer. A homogeneous mixture is also called.
Right choice. Solution is the best answer.
What is the simplest form of matter? Well picked. Elements is the correct answer. More sugar can get dissolved in dash. Smart move. Unsaturated solution is an accurate answer. We can separate butter from milk by. Right again. Churning is a valid answer. What is churned to separate butter? Perfect. Milk and curds is the correct choice. Air and salt water is an example of. Nice selection. Homogeneous mixture is the correct and valid answer.
In which process sand settles down?
Nicely done. Sedimentation is a solid answer. Hand picking method is effective in. Valid point. Solid mixture is true. It is an example of pure substance. Excellent choice. Sugar is the right answer. Which of the following is a solute? Well picked. Sugar is the correct answer. Husk is separated from rice by dash. Nicely done. Winnowing is a solid answer. What is known as the king of water? Good thinking. Aqua direction is the right answer. Germs in water are killed by adding. Right again. Chlorine is a valid answer. The substance that does not sublime. Well done. Sulfur is the right choice. Separating tea leaves from tea with. Exactly. Strainer makes sense and it is right choice. Condensation is dash to evaporation. Well-reasoned, opposite is the correct choice.
Which is an example of a solution? Solid response. Lemonade is a valid choice.
Winnowing is done with the help of.
Excellent. Wind is a brilliant choice.
Butter is separated from milk by. Strong choice. Churning is the right answer. Rock salt is an impure substance.
Smart move. False is an accurate answer.
Find a mixture from the following. Good job. Your answer, chocolate milkshake, works well here.
A sieve is also known as chalni.
Great thinking. True is the right choice. By which process do we get butter?
You got it. Your choice, churning, is right.
Distilled water is an example of.
Smart pick. Mixture is the correct choice.
Husk and grain are separated by.
Perfect. Winnowing is the correct choice.
Common salt is a pure substance. Great job. True is the accurate answer.
Which is the example of mixture. Nice work. You chose crude oil, and it is correct.
Sand from water is separated by.
You chose sedimentation and decantation, and it is correct.
How to separate salt from water?
Correct response. By evaporation is the most accurate answer. Removal of nails from sand is. Sharp thinking. Magnetic separation is the right choice. Acetone and water separated by. Right choice. Distillation is the best answer.
Nail polish can be removed by.
Correct. Distillation is the right answer.
Water can be filtered by sand.
Clear logic. Your choice true is sound and 100% true. Common salt is dash in water.
Valid point. Soluble is true.
The object used to do sieving. You're right. Sieve is the correct answer. Elements are pure substances. Nice selection. True is the correct and valid answer. Threshing is used to separate. Bravo. Grains from stalks is the answer. Sieving is done using a dash. On track. Sieve is the correct answer. Soft drink is an example of.
Solid response. Homogeneous mixture is a valid choice.
Petrol is soluble in water. On track. False is the correct answer. How many mixtures are there?
Clear logic. Your choice too is sound and 100% true.
Butter is separated by curd.
Sharp thinking. Churning is the right choice.
Which device used to filter?
Valid point. Filter paper is true. Dash is a universal solvent. Nice work. You chose water and it is correct. Rocks are pure substances.
You're right. False is the correct answer.
What is homogeneous mixture?
Perfect. Soluble in water is the correct choice.
Seawater is a mixture of.
You chose water and several salts, and it is correct.
Filter paper is used for.
Correct. Filtration is the right answer.
when handpicking is used.
Smart move. Separate larger component is an accurate answer.
When is decantation done? Smart pick. After sedimentation is the correct choice.
Solvent plus solute equal to dash.
Good job. Your answer solution works well here. Which is float on water?
Right again. Oil is a valid answer.
Is oil soluble in water?
Great thinking. No is the right choice.
Grain is separated from.
Nicely done. Stalks is a solid answer.
Threshing is used to.
Right choice. Separate grains from stalk is the best answer.
Rainwater is kind of. Well done. Distilled water is the right choice. Threshing is done by.
Excellent. All of these is a brilliant choice.
Wood is a mixture of.
Good thinking. Water and cellulose is the right answer. Milk is a mixture of.
Exactly. Water and cream makes sense and it is right choice. Find the odd one out. Great job. Evaporation is the accurate answer. Pure water boils at.
Well reasoned. 100 egg C is the correct choice.
Is blood a mixture?
Excellent choice. Yes is the right answer.
Choose the odd one. Bravo. Evaporation is the answer. A fruit salad is a. Strong choice. Mixture is the right answer. Which is correct?
Well picked. Sedimentation, decantation, filtration is the correct answer.
Winnowing is dash. You got it? Your choice separation by wind is right. Full form of row.
Nice selection. Reverse osmosis is the correct and valid answer. A salad is a.
Correct response. Heterogeneous mixture is the most accurate answer. How you will get all these quiz questions in PDF books format.
Great job. Contact Narayan Chengder on Facebook is the accurate answer.